running for me. As easy as it may seem, I fall to my knees.
Guess what? It's your host, Jesse Lipscombe, still elevating on the Black Elevator with you, my listeners, our viewers, the people who are in tune, staying tuned, and trying to keep in tune. You know, who knows? Maybe you were singing along at the beginning. Either way, we want to discuss some really key points. Today, we want to discuss the representation and the next generation of talent. Derrick and Marilyn from Icon Talent are here to do just that. What they've done is dedicated their lives to this type of work, specifically with BIPOC entrepreneurs, women in the space, and ensuring that there can be much more streamlined, much more effective, much more supportive environments for people to really shine their absolute best. Tune into this chat. I think you'll enjoy it. Hello, how are you?
I am very well. How are you?
I am great. Welcome to the Black Elevator. I'm Jesse Lipscombe. I host this podcast, and it is a wonderful treat to talk to you, Marilyn Raphael. Now, can you give us just a little backstory? I want people to understand who you are and what you do, and then we're going to dig into some really poignant questions about representation and the new face of the talent in the BIPOC world coming through.
Awesome. So, Marilyn Raphael, I have many hats. I don't even know how to introduce myself anymore. I am the co-founder and COO of Icon Talent Partners with my husband, Derrick, where we work with high potential Black, Indigenous, and other persons of color to try and expose them to high potential, high impact sectors where they're often underrepresented. I also work in banking. I'm a vice president in business and product governance at TD Asset Management. I am also a mom of two young boys, which I tell you is a full-time job. And I've also recently been appointed the Ontario Liberal Party candidate for Brampton South in the next provincial election. So I'm running for office. So I've got a lot going on, but a lot of the work that I have to do is really centered around kind of commitment and the advancement of people. So they're all the same thread, different types of work, but definitely the same line of work.
So that actually first question I have for you then is, this I guess this desire to help in business and help young BIPOC up and comers. Why did that become your career focus? And was it maybe a reflection of a need that you didn't see existed in Canada or in the East?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of a reflection of lack of service in that space for young, diverse talent, and also a reflection on how I made decisions and how Derrick and I made decisions in our lives and how we navigated the world and how we wish we had had a mentor and support to be with us, to give us good advice around careers, courses, where to intern, how to position ourselves for success, and realizing that we might have made different decisions had we had that support along the way. And so we really want to be, as we call it, like guidance counselors at scale for young people, be that mentor to work with them hand in hand, let them know that the world is truly their oysters, all the opportunities available to them so that they can be informed to make really great decisions.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you say that. I just had this conversation not too long ago about the idea of how I didn't have a mentor growing up and always wanted one. I saw the stories, people have mentors, and I didn't have one. And I was lucky. I worked my butt off as well, but relatively privileged. But I think by luck of the draw, things worked out for me. But seeing exactly what you just said, I probably would have made different decisions. Ladies and gentlemen, those who could see us just saw Derrick join the room. Those who can hear us, Derrick, say hello. Welcome to the Black Elevator.
Hello, nice to be here.
Excellent. We're just talking a little bit about the what Icon is and the need that you filled, but also that idea of having mentors or not having them, but wanting to be able to provide that. And I think that's such an important piece. Specifically, you know about it when you're missing it, and now the idea of being able to offer it, I think, is very special. So if some of the young listeners are tuning in right now, how does someone, I guess, utilize Icon? What would they do? What are the prerequisites? If I just want some help and I want a mentor, do we just look up the website and say, help me, please?
So Icon, we have a cohort-based program where we're running, I think this year we're going to do from September all the way till June. And hopefully people will be able to kind of get their internships during the summertime. But we do put out applications in August and September to recruit folks to join each cohort, where they will get a chance to participate in some hard skills training, some technical skills training. A lot of the people who participate in Icon are very interested in the world of finance and business. So making sure their Excel skills are up to snuff, their PowerPoint skills are up to snuff, their financial modeling acumen is there also. So we offer technical skills training. We offer soft skills training. So we also want to make sure people are able to communicate their ideas in ways that are convincing and compelling. So we offer sessions on strong communication. We start everything off in Icon with self-assessments. We cannot stress that enough. There's nothing worse than being the person who's really a people person, but is stuck in front of a computer all day working on Excels. And we really want you to know yourself, know your strengths, know your competencies, know your motivators, know your drivers, and know the environments in which you thrive. And so that we can support you in being well matched in those settings and bring our corporate partners to the table to let you know that you would do well in X, Y, and Z. So for folks who are interested in Icon, we will put out an application. We'll do a call for applicants. We'll do a call for applicants probably early fall. People will put in their submissions. They will be interviewed by our Icon team. We do have prerequisites. It is for high potential, and sometimes that might be a little difficult for people to understand. What does that mean? If I have a C average, can I participate? And sometimes you can. We do a holistic assessment, but we are looking for strong academic performers. Again, the places and spaces some of our talent want to be in require strong technical performance, and we're really trying to call and cultivate that group of folks. So we're looking for strong academic performance, strong leadership performance, resiliency, and a commitment to help the next generation in your community. So we use a holistic.
I think this is.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say this is very, very important stuff, because this idea, and you don't see these kind of, I guess, passageways and access often. We hear about it, but this idea of having, let's train you, let's make sure you're ready, and then open the doors to the access that you've already had. I think that's wonderful and so needed. And one of the biggest pieces often is just not knowing that they exist. So the conversations I have with lots of the youth, they just have no idea that this is even available to them. So this is beautiful. I'm glad many thousands of millions of people will be listening to this. Derrick, question for you, because now you're a lawyer. You passed the bar, but right now not working in law. So after you became a lawyer and decided, I'm moving to business side. Tell me about that transition after all of that work, and I'm sure you still use a lot of the skills.
Yeah, that's a really great question, and I feel that in many ways, having that legal background has been invaluable in the world of business. It really helps to be able to be the person that can evaluate the contracts, the different deals, and provide a great evaluation. And that's one of the things that's been really helpful in my current role in the venture capital space, is being able to be that first line of defense, to do some of that initial review and help out our teams and or other members of our firm with that legal analysis. But I'll say that in many ways, going through the legal profession has exposed me to the world of venture capital by working at places like Fasken Law Firm and their startup and emerging tech group, which said, let me know, I like what they're doing on the other side of the aisle. Let me look into that a little bit more. So I think that they've definitely fed on to each other, and it's been a really great transition to this venture capital world.
I would also add.
Go ahead. You go.
I would just also add that working in corporate law has also exposed you to the lack of diversity in those spaces too, right? And knowing that there are a lot of Black and racialized folks that want to work in these amazing law firms that are working on big deals also and don't know how to get in. And because that process of being courted by a corporate law firm is a very opaque process, right? It's not like you do X, Y, and Z, you're going to get in. There's dinners, there's meetings, we know that you will have a really great life. It's a very competitive sector. And the process to kind of get in is not super clear. And so being able to build relationships with corporate law firms like the Faskins also helps us clarify that process, demystify that process for some of our young talent that are interested in law and figuring out how do I become the next Suits? How do I be the lawyer on a great deal? But we have access to these folks that will tell you a little bit about their experience in mining, in corporate takeovers, and, working in, investment banking deals, whatever it is, IPOs. They will let you know what that process is and how to position yourself to win. And so that's one of the values I think Derrick has brought in, having transitioned from law into business.
Yeah, one thing just to kind of add up on top of that is, I feel like these relationships that you create, especially in the legal sector, they come with you. So one of the things I like to highlight is that our first partner for Icon was Faskin Law Firm. So they're our first partner. We actually have a really great scholarship program that we're doing with Faskin. We're actually going to reward 10 students that are incoming law students scholarships from Faskin. They'll also get a mentor from Faskin and just access to that network, which prior to this program existing, Black and Indigenous students didn't have this type of opportunity, but we're providing it to them before they even start. So these are some of the things we've been really excited to be able to provide through Icon.
So this question I have, if we move on to the next piece here, both successful Black people in business, in law, in finance, in coaching, and you're opening doors and access. Are you finding any pushback when you're saying, here's a great candidate, here's another great candidate with some of the doors you've opened? Because I know the walk is different for people who look like us. Often we have to do a lot more, have to work that much harder. And both of you have arrived. But now, as you're offering and suggesting, do you notice any pushback, or is it thank you very much, this is a great candidate?
So I don't think either of us have arrived, and I don't think any of us ever really arrive. And I think if you ever think you've arrived, then, you set your ambitions a little too low. So I don't think we've arrived. We are also learning and also growing. As for putting forward candidates and getting any sort of pushback, Icon's mission is not to look for some sort of tokenism hires. We are bringing forward candidates that are high quality, high performers by every single standard, irrespective of race or what have you. Their grades are still the same grades from the same schools as many of the people that might get in. Their communications are strong. Their technical skills are strong. And so a lot of the people that we are bringing forward are people that probably could get the job on their own anyway, if they knew how to navigate that process. So I don't think we've had any sort of pushback on the quality of our candidates. Everybody has been given the same opportunity to compete for that job the same way anybody else would. What our corporate partners are offering us is to say, I'm going to trust your process and trust the folks that you have brought in your pipeline and bring them in our pipeline and give them that first look. When you apply online for jobs and you send 1 million resumes, that is a black hole, an abyss, and you don't know whether or not anybody sees you. The value of Icon and the relationships we built is that we know that your resume will get a look at and you will be given a fair chance and a fair shot to interview competitively for that role. A lot of our people that we put forward have been great value adds to the organization. I'm sure you've heard folks say, I can't find quality Black talent. They don't exist. They do. They do. You just have to do the work and you have to be intentional about that kind of recruiting. It doesn't just happen, right? It doesn't just happen. It requires that political will, that leadership, that commitment from the organization from top down to say, guys, I see that we have missed the mark. We have failed to be intentional about making sure that our employees reflect Ontario, Canada, Toronto, and I'm going to correct that. And so that means you might have to give a little bit of preferential advantage in terms of assessing Black or Brown or Indigenous candidates, but they should still be measured against whatever metrics that you identify as successful metrics for that role. So I don't think we've had any pushback in terms of the quality of the candidates that we've put forward. Some people have been successful and landed. Some people have not for a variety of reasons. Yeah. And that's okay. And we respect those situations also. We know our talent will land when it's time and in the right organization.
Yeah, I think, and I agree with that. I had no question that Icon wasn't providing the highest quality candidate, but it's also a known fact that you can have two identical resumes, and the Black or Indigenous person may not get that. And that's what I was wondering if we saw that. But these companies are actually coming to you for your assistance and trusting in your process, which is amazing. This is like the definition of access, which is so very important. And it goes to that question of representation and why it is so important to be able to have two individuals like you mentor, saying, I've walked the walk, and I'm gonna help you through that process. So if we're looking at this next generation of wonderful talent, what should they be thinking about right now? Because I don't know if you've noticed this, but for me, when I was, in my 20s to 30s, I still thought I was young, and then all of a sudden, I wasn't a young candidate anymore, right? So this switch, it happens relatively quickly. So as people are kind of working through this, what should they be thinking about in order to put themselves in the best position?
So, I think one thing that's really important, and this is actually something that Marilyn's explained and shared in the past previously, is that, it's really good to have a functional skill. So I think it's great. A lot of times people like to be quote unquote generalists and have a lot of different areas that they can say they dabble in. It's good to have a functional area of expertise. Great example. We actually had an Icon candidate join us yesterday for some campaigning and doing some canvassing. And she's looking at an opportunity at KPMG where she spent the summer, and she's looking to become an accountant. And I think that type of functional skill is invaluable to be able to say, like, I have a skill, I have a certification, I can do this. Because once you have that functional skill, you can build other things around it in terms of like leadership, in terms of management, in terms of sales, what have you. But having a deep functional skill is something that a lot of times might be missing, but being able to hone that, have that be your foundation. And I think it's really important for young people to be mindful about, getting allies, getting mentors, getting sponsors to kind of surround them and provide that support and course correction if needed. And just having those voices around you, which a lot of times for folks within the community, that's not always there and present.
I will also add that, and I think I mentioned this earlier on, it's very important for young people to know themselves, right? Have a good inventory on your strengths, your weaknesses, the environments in which you thrive in, the type of work that truly gives you joy, the work that's going to feel like you are energized by that work, and get super clear on that. Because when you don't know who you are, what matters to you, distractions can look like opportunities, and you can find yourself in the wrong setting. And so I think it's important to really get clear on who you are. I also think before you actually specialize and gain that functional skill, it's important to actually have a broad understanding of competencies and skills. I think the work of David Epstein in his book Range, he talks about professional athletes and those who are really high performers. Mm-hmm. And he talks about, not everybody is a Tiger Woods where you give him, a golf club. Like, is that what it's called? A golf club at age 2, and he becomes a superstar. A lot of folks, they do hockey, they do basketball, they do soccer. They figure out what it is that they are good at, what they want to do, and develop that range of competencies. The issues and the problems that we are facing today and moving forward are complex issues. They require that kind of cognitive flexibility that you get from having worked in different sectors and different spaces and being able to bring ideas together in ways that have never been done before. And so I do think think for young people as they are setting out to figure out how they want to make a difference in this world, how they want to show up, to give themselves an opportunity to explore. And I think David talks about this in his book as flirt with your possible selves. Get close to this idea that I could be X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to dabble a little bit until I have to hone a competency. But get to know yourself fully. And the reason we say that is because part of the work we do and the impetus of Icon is we might finish our studies, you might finish university, and all of a sudden you're 22 and you've done this degree in commerce or philosophy. But then in your last year, you took that one course in health studies or business, and you're like, man, why didn't I do this earlier? Why didn't I do this? And now you're feeling you're at a crossroads. Do I go back and restudy? Do I now just take any sort of job? And you find so many people having unsatisfying careers because maybe they specialized too early. They didn't explore all of their interests. Sure. And so we really want to encourage young people when they're in undergrad or high school to explore your interests. Later on, you can kind of hone that competency and get a little bit proficient in something.
Excellent. Yeah, you mentioned a number of times this idea of finding out who you are and something you want to ensure that these young individuals do. So I present that question to you, Marilyn. Who are you?
I know that I am a multi-passionate person who is interested in people development at the core of everything that I do. And so that might look like me working in business, helping our product managers or our investors do the work that they need to do, and I support them to be able to do that. That might look like me working in Icon, committed to identifying what it is you're really good at, helping you get in touch with that and providing the resources that you need to be able to do that. That might mean running for office and recognizing that the way that we can make the changes that people really need at scale is through public policy. So for me, I know that I'm multi-passionate, and at the core, I'm really about making sure that people and communities and business realize their full potential.
Derrick, who are you?
I will say, at my heart, I feel like I love people. Like I really, really do. My wife says, you're one of the only people I feel that gets more excited about someone else's success than maybe my own success. And I love seeing, a great example. There's a young man that was a part of our inaugural class in Icon. At the Schulich School of Business. And he came in, he had a lot of different interests, but one area that he really honed in on was venture capital. I want to get into venture capital. And I'm not sure how familiar you are with the sector, but I will say the best example is, it's very much so like going to an exclusive club and having someone say like, oh, I know someone that works inside and they're going to let me in. And you're calling your friend. That's kind of how it works in venture capital. It's more of an invite only, as opposed to you saying, I really want to do it. And someone saying, oh, that sounds great. Here's a job. And, It made me so proud when he made a post actually yesterday saying, I got my full-time offer. I'm going to work in venture capital full-time. And just to know his journey and all the hard work. And as you may or may not know, for every one venture capital job they have, there's literally hundreds of applicants, hundreds. Right. And for you to kind of get that achievement, to me, that brings me joy. So I think at my core, I'm someone that loves to help people reach their journey. I'll say outside of that, I love in many ways, I consider myself, the support mechanism for a lot of different organizations or people, be it at my job where I support tech startups, based in the United States, be it with Icon is supporting the candidates in our program or our leadership team. I think be it, for Marilyn and obviously her campaign is being someone to support her campaign and do what I can to maybe have her achieve, her goals and her dreams and her aspirations. So I think that in many ways at my core, I'm a supporter of people in a variety of different areas.
Yeah,
and I think it's important to, and just saying that, hearing Derrick say that, I think that is our shared value and shared commitment. And I think that is what attracted us to each other, knowing that we have the same values, knowing that we're committed to seeing other people rise, knowing that we have the gifts and the supports to do so. And that is how we want to spend our lives, and knowing that we get great fulfillment from doing so. And that is a shared passion of ours that we can work together towards. So I think hearing that just only reinforces the fact that, we're committed to the same things.
Yeah, that's what I'm here to do. It's almost like a vow renewal with Jesse Lipscombe on the black elevator. I just pull it out. I'll tell you, one of the things I notice that kind of connects everybody is it's suffering and struggle. Like no matter who you are, you have to overcome certain things. And I'm hearing a lot of helpful tips of things we should do, things that you should do. And here's here's the map. But I also know that people really identify when they can see some of the cracks, to know that it's okay to struggle, and to know that it's not going to be smooth. And so I pose this question to either of you on the journey, whether we're talking your political aspirations right now, if we're talking, getting your law degree, whatever the case is, what were some of the struggles that you had to overcome, or maybe the one that sticks out the most, just to let people know that it does take work and it's not going to be smooth the entire time, but that's no reason to quit?
Oh, goodness. So many opportunities to improve. I would say, so when I worked in public health, I was a research and policy analyst, and I loved that work. And I was very committed to using evidence to inform decisions around health. I also knew it wasn't all of it for me. Like I knew I wanted to do something else. And I was trying to figure out how best to transition from the world of public health into maybe the world of business. And I went on to study a business degree. And then in my limited understanding of opportunities, I thought the only way to do business and have a health background is to work in healthcare, in the hospital or something. So I made a transition from public health to work in the hospital sector, in a hospital, in a project management capacity, which was great. I learned so much. It was a great project. But it was not an environment where I personally could thrive, because I think there was an appreciation for more of the clinical leader than just a leader. Okay. So I think back in the day, you could be a hospital CEO and you're not a doctor or a nurse or what have you. You just kind of bring in that administrative leadership competency. But I think now there's been a transition to see a little bit more of that clinical leader, which makes sense in many ways, right? Like you have kind of that frontline experience, and now you also bring kind of that business management acumen to the table. There's also a culture in the hospital around kind of hierarchy as well as in terms of professions, the roles of RPNs and PHNs and RNs, and then the doctors and which specialization. And, it's a very interesting experience. And people told me about that, right? People told me that, right, Marilyn, you might not thrive in that setting because it's very hierarchical. And I was coming from a public health setting where everybody was super nice, super gracious. And, I probably was spoiled in my first job, right? Like my bosses were amazing. They taught me so much. They identified my leadership potential. They gave me stretch opportunities. And then I transitioned into this new environment where I thought, hey, I'm great. Why won't I do, amazing in this space? And I think I started to bump heads with personalities and cultural, how things work in that space and how it differs from what I was used to, that I felt like I wasn't thriving. And so why we talk about self-assessment and including what kinds of atmospheres in which you thrive is because work contributes so much to your happiness. We spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day at work. And for me, I wasn't really being happy and I wasn't myself anymore. I wasn't thriving in that space. Even though this work was work that I love to do and I was still kind of advancing healthcare, the environment I was working in, unfortunately, did not create the conditions in which I was my best self. Right. And so for me, I found myself looking to leave earlier than I thought I wanted to. So here I was in public health for 6 years. I'm saying goodbye, guys. I'm off to my next thing. And then within like a few months, I'm like, oh my God, did I make a mistake? Did I make a wrong turn? Should I have just stayed in that comfort? But the reality is all growth comes with struggle. All growth comes with learnings. And so I was put in an environment in which I felt like I wasn't going to be my best selves. Personalities and I were not jiving. Just the work environment just did not align with just kind of who I am. right? And just also what I just experienced. I just had this amazing, wonderful experience for 6 years, and now I wasn't having a wonderful experience anymore. And I didn't know how to navigate that. And I never thought I'd be in a space where I wasn't happy in work, because it never occurred to me that I could not be happy. Now, I've heard a lot of people talk about, not loving their job, but I never experienced that up until that point. And so here I was, probably around like 6-7 months in. I was like, this work environment is just not working for me, and I needed to get out. And so when I was just kind of wrapping up my MBA, God, serendipity, whatever you might want to call it, the universe created this opportunity for me to, and Derrick, I should say Derrick. Derrick is going to say, it wasn't God, it was me. I invited you to an event and you met the people at TD Bank, right? So, but here I got an opportunity. Are you sitting there thinking, no, it wasn't God? What are you talking
I'm
about?
watching Derrick's face right now as you tell the story. He's like, you're missing a key factor here.
You're missing a key factor. Derrick invited me to an event that was happening at the Rotman School of Management. It was at that opportunity. It was in that event where I got a chance to meet some folks at TD, and they were Black people at TD that had come to Rotman to recruit talent. And so they were sitting on a panel, and they were all talking about how much they love TD, how they've been having this amazing experience there. And I was brainwashed, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And I remember turning to Derrick, and I'm like, do I want to be a banker? Like, this doesn't even make any sense. Right? Here I am coming from healthcare. Why am I listening to bankers being drawn and compelled because their stories around their experience was invigorating and compelling and made me want to be there. They were telling me about their awesome experience, and I joined. They were, someone came to me at the end of that event and said, why don't you join our graduate leadership program? I put forward my application, went through a very rigorous interview process, and it was a wonderful transition for me.
It's even in that story, I still see elements of what you've discussed about Icon. This idea, like knowing yourself in a place where I need to be happy in work, finding out that you're not happy, but also understanding the peripheral vision of when you know this and then you make some moves, you actually act on it, and then God or your husband he invites you to an event, and you're able to access the opportunities because you have a grounded foundation of what you know you needed, and then you could see it. And I think you could see that, what you do in Icon is also what you follow in your own life. And I think that's an important piece. Yeah, absolutely. And like for myself, if this was me, it makes sense that I'm not just talking to someone that's reading facts. This is what you should do, but we live it, and we've gone through these things, and that's what we're trying to help individuals with. I think it is amazing, and this is available across the nation, I suppose, or do they have to live in Ontario in order to access Icon?
Yes, that's a really great question. And I would say that, Icon, due to our current structure of being primarily remote, means that we have candidates that can span potentially across the country. I'll say the vast majority, however, are based in Ontario. But that's one of the things that we're really looking forward to diversifying in terms of our geographic locations. So we'd love to get some folks from Quebec and Alberta and Saskatchewan and BC. But I'll say that our core is in the GTA section of Ontario. But, I think that's something that's changing over time. And we're just really excited that, with a lot of our corporate partners that are national or international, I think that's going to be changing in the near future.
Yeah, it's. I think it's great work. Obviously, I'm Team Icon. It's well needed, and it's a wonderful hole that's been filled for sure. I'm so grateful that both of you could join me on the Black Elevator. I want to wish you as much. Do you wish luck for your political campaign? Is that what it is? Or you just go do your thing? Like, what do you, break a leg? I'm in the acting world, so we know, break a leg. We don't say Macbeth on stage. So best of luck in all that you're doing. But I do have one question as we leave on that one. Political aspirations, you decided to run Liberal. Why and why now?
Why Liberal and why now?
Yeah.
So, for me, Liberal values are are centrist values. They understand that we have to create conditions for the economy to thrive, for businesses to thrive. But it also understands that not everybody starts off the same. And there are going to be needed supports to give people a hand up, not necessarily a hand out. And so we create conditions for people to thrive. And those two concepts around, strong economy, strong opportunities for business, but also recognizing that some people require a little bit more supports for them to thrive. And it's not about this rugged individualism, is why I decided I wanted to align myself with the Liberal Party. Why now? Because the Liberal Party is in a rebuilding phase. It is a great opportunity for new voices, young talent, people who have diverse lived experiences, who bring expertise in banking and public health and finance and what have you to the table. I'm sure you're very aware that 2018 was a terrible year for the Ontario Liberals, and the party was decimated. And for me, this is our Phoenix rising moment. It is an opportunity to learn from what was, to bring new people and new voices to the table. I think people, especially with COVID as a backdrop, especially with what's happened with Black Lives Matter as a backdrop, people are more conscious around inequities, whether it's in health, whether it's in racial issues, whether it's in education, whether it's in income, whether it's in work. People are so aware around just the disparities and how difficult it is for folks, and how if we do not address the steepness of the inequities, it will lead to long-term problems. And if you paid attention to the pandemic, and if you paid attention to the hot spot that was Peel and Brampton specifically, you really got a chance to see, probably for the first time for some people in this country, what working class people look like, what happens when you underinvest in healthcare in a society, what happens when you don't create conditions for people to thrive. They are what we call the social determinants of health. And it is a public health crisis and a clarion call to action. And I wanted to make sure that I'm part of the solution and not as someone that's just on the sidelines. I think I've been on the sidelines for a long time. I've been watching, but I wanted to bring my expertise, bring my lived experience, bring my capacity to speak on behalf of those who don't always get a chance to be at the table, and be a force for change and good change.
Yeah, you're right. This last 2 years-ish has been a real magnifying glass on both the good and the ugly. And it really did kind of put a mirror up in all of our faces of where do we fall in this fight? Where do we want to be? So it's nice to see action as a result of what we just saw magnified. I wish you the most success.
Thank you. Thank you.
Got my vote. Let's do it up. It's been great, Derrick and Marilyn.
Thank you. I received that. But let's get me as MPP first. Brampton South.
Look, I know we don't talk about it's in the back of our minds. Of course it is. It's like, all right, it's nothing we talk about yet, but I see you. So we're good.
Oh,
I can't wait.
You are too kind.
Both of you are doing wonderful work. I honored to meet both of you. Thank you for what you're doing. And the young people out there, you heard it. Icons available for you across the nation. If anything, just reach out and see what kind of support you can get. It's there. No excuses. Thanks for being on the Black Elevator, and we will be in touch soon.
Thank you so much.
Doing things I never thought I'd do, no living the dream. Man, it ain't easy. I know what I want, but you tell me I don't know. Fighting for my confidence while you stand in the door. But I know that you hold the key, you hold it for me. 'Cause you're scared of the future, yeah.
You were listening to Tafari Anthony. He's a Toronto-based artist whose music blends pop, R&B, and soul. He's an artist who embodies the spirit of the modern musician. Not just a musician, but a creator, known for his sleek vocal tones, sultry melodies, and music which oozes with personality. Tafari leaves listeners in awe, somewhat apt considering his name means he who inspires awe. Hope you enjoyed The Black Elevator and the smooth sounds of Tafari Anthony.
When you gonna wake up, wake up? When you gonna wake up, wake up? When you gonna wake up, wake up? I wanna see all my scars. Get a little bit closer, you can tear them apart. Just the blood in my feet, make sure I'm ready to go with the flow. Never ask another question.